You might be wondering, what is Registrix? Registrix is a live streaming video microsite that manages your audience. How does that work? First, you decide, who is your audience? Is it employees or stakeholders in your company? Or are you selling online tickets for a trade show or event? Or are you doing marketing and want people to sign in and watch your event? We have a solution for each of these requirements. Our approved participant solves the problem of allowing exclusive access only to those in your company to watch the broadcast. Its design allows uploading a file of all the email addresses in your company or other stakeholders. If you cannot get a list, enable the domain protected mode, which allows your participants to enter their company email addresses. As long as they have access to their email, they can join the broadcast. And finally, our enterprise single sign-on or SSO. Planning a virtual trade show or speaking event and you must sell tickets, we've got you covered. Working with the best-in-class ticketing platforms such as Eventbrite, Universe, and others, you can leverage the power of the ticket platforms for affiliate marketing, monitoring, and selling. After the viewer buys the ticket, that information transfers to Registrix, and the viewer can log in, and only the viewer that purchased the ticket can log in. And for those of you in marketing, streaming to YouTube and Facebook is great, but don't you want to have more information about your attendees, like who they are and their time frame? Registrix can capture many different fields about the attendee so that you can remarket to them based on how long they were watching the event. Stay connected with your attendees by setting up email services such as calendar invites, event reminders, and post follow-up email messages. The Registrix platform is video agnostic and works with virtually any live stream video provider or video hosting solution. After the event, download all sorts of attendee analytics to be used for further data analysis. Registrix is extremely easy to customize to your branding, colors, and logos. With simple controls to set the coloring, drag and drop file upload controls, and a template-based design that allows you to reuse the same assets for other events. Registrix can have you up and running in less than 5 minutes. The hardest part is what URL to use. So stop browsing and talk to our Registrix Account Success Manager, and get on your way of increasing your revenue. Registrix, capturing your audience.